Good morning from London News, Melbourne, Australia, on a beautiful sunny spring day, 4th of September 2020. I have, over the last few months, built up an enormous disdain for the media in general. Fake news, nothing but fake news, relentless in their BS coverage of this BS virus. It's just relentless. So I don't watch news. But Sky News have put up Alan Jones for a breath of fresh air, and I suggest you all have a quick look at Alan Jones. You will find him on Sky News alongside with The Outsiders, another fantastic organisation on Sky News, actually speaking the truth. I can't believe it. Have a look.
What a night last night. This is where your responses are very important. Let me show you part of that picture again, which I showed you last night, the ultimate indictment of Kim Jong-dan. Let's look again.
Now, you're under arrest in relation to incitement.
Incitement?
Yeah. Now, you're not obliged to say or do anything, but anything you say or do may be given evidence.
Excuse me, incitement for what? What on earth? Excuse me, what on earth?
Just put your phone down.
Can you, like,
record
this? I'm in my pyjamas.
What's this?
I had an ultrasound in an hour.
Yeah, she's pregnant.
That's fine. Can I just
let me finish. Any mobile telephone you've got, okay? So what we want is any mobile telephone you've got.
You don't need that.
It's actually my sister's phone. It's not
Yeah,
my
it's
name.
her sister's.
Doesn't matter. Any device in this house we're taking.
This is ridiculous.
You're not taking my phone.
I'm taking any device, mate.
That's my phone. It's nothing to do with her. It's my phone.
What you've just seen is a young pregnant woman from Ballarat being arrested by Victorian police. The video's gone viral. Zoe Buhler, 28, was arrested in her pyjamas for inciting a protest against COVID-19 restrictions. Luckily for us, Zoe's partner filmed it so we could all see the disgraceful treatment, handcuffed in front of her children. When I showed you the video last night, it had 450,000 views. It is now over 7 million views. On my Facebook page, there have been over 3,000 comments, most of which are unrepeatable. On last night's text line, the response was massive. 2,000 text messages alone from viewers, most saying they were so disturbed by the footage that they had shed a tear. It's interesting how the bulk of the mainstream media did not cover Zoe's plight until later on today, a good 24 hours after the video surfaced. The media's role during coronavirus has been terrible, fueling hysteria, alarmist talk, and being sycophantic to the very politicians who are destroying our lives and our economy. And then you've got this dope Luke Cornelius, the Victorian Assistant Police Commissioner, who said today he was satisfied with how the arrest happened. Cornelius, who looks like he hasn't arrested someone in 20 years, said, and I quote, "The point I really want to make is that while this deadly virus doesn't discriminate, we won't discriminate, and we can't discriminate in holding people to account." Deadly virus. He obviously doesn't read the World Health Organization figures, which say that for 99% of those who contract the virus, it'll be mild. The tide is going to turn, rest assured. As one of my viewers has said, the disturbing emotion of hatred is rising, and of course we must avoid it. But the sentiments demonstrate profound and unyielding anger. I repeat to you, Daniel Andrews, if you had any honour, you'd resign, because this abuse of a pregnant woman is taking place under your watch. You're the architect of this behaviour, Kim Jong-dan, and this might be okay in North Korea, but it should never be tolerated here. I'm sure you haven't even had the decency to ring this pregnant, distressed woman. Home invaded in front of her children, arrested in front of her children, and the charge is inciting. Mr. Andrews, what are you inciting? I can answer my own question. You're inciting the very behaviour that we as a society condemn. You've taken upon yourself powers beyond your entitlement, which have no part in any democratic society. You've confirmed yourself as a bully and a dictator, for which you will never, ever be forgiven. You might continue on, but Mr. Andrews, your political career is over. And by the way, the two mothers to whom I spoke last night, I've spoken again to today. The Health Minister in Queensland said he'd be in touch with such people. They've heard nothing. Which brings me to Josh Frydenberg. There is really no excuse for the stuff that comes out of his mouth because this man is brilliantly and intellectually credentialed. There can be no possible excuse for Josh Frydenberg in the wake of yesterday's appalling economic figures, the national economy contracting by 7% in the June quarter, the second successive drop in GDP, the largest on record, and negative growth forecast for the September quarter as well. But Josh Frydenberg, with all his scholarship, says, quote, the cause, a once-in-a-century global pandemic. The effect, a COVID-19 induced recession. No, Josh, no. Emphatically no. This is a government-induced recession. The government response to the pandemic is totally inconsistent with what the Prime Minister said on March 15 this year when he addressed the nation and said, and I quote again, the truth is that while many people will contract this virus, it's clear, just as people get the flu each year, it is a more severe condition than the flu, but for the vast majority, around 8 in 10 is our advice, it'll be a mild illness and it will pass. However, for older Australians, he said, and those who are more vulnerable, particularly those in remote communities and those with pre-existing health conditions, it's a far more serious virus, he said, and that's our concern. Our aim in all of this is to protect the most vulnerable. Well, we didn't. Governments closed down businesses, governments put people out of work, governments shut down whole industries, and if governments could not anticipate that this would smash the economy, then they shouldn't be in government. We've traumatised young people by denying them access to school. We're denying them access to their parents when they're at boarding school as a result of border closures. We have the same young people wondering whether they'll ever get a job. Make no mistake, the people whose tyres will be punctured along this long, hard and bumpy road are the young. It'll be a scarring and damaging experience. And I'll tell you something, they won't forgive governments. There is a disproportionate number of young people in industries that have been shut down. And then young people finishing school or university will soon be competing for jobs that don't exist. No, Josh, this is not a COVID-induced recession. This is a consequence of a government response out of all proportion to the problem. And remember, in all of this, these diabolical figures come after businesses received $31 billion in JobKeeper payments in 3 months. That's businesses. The Treasurer proudly announced this week that JobKeeper is supporting 3.5 million Australian workers and 1 million Australian businesses. And the total cost of JobKeeper is now estimated at $101 billion. That's $101,000 million. This is a deluge of government support, the like of which we've never seen. As the outstanding Adam Crichton reports today, businesses received $31 billion in JobKeeper payments for 3 months. $31 billion, quote, an amount which exceeds the cumulative sum of all previous employment subsidies. And on top of the $31 billion, they got another $16 billion in cash subsidies. Am I entitled to ask a dumb question? What happens when all these support payments, underpinned by borrowed money, largely from overseas, dry up? You'd have to believe that there are tooth fairies at the bottom of the garden if you thought that privately generated income, that is all those lost wages and salaries, would suddenly bounce back. As Terry McCrann, the respected economic commentator, has said today, it was government with mandatory lockdowns which has delivered an unprecedented 7% plunge in the economy. And as Terry McCrann says, these figures aren't unprecedented. He said better words are mind-boggling, devastating, disastrous and bizarre. Well, no amount of rhetoric from highly intelligent people like Josh Frydenberg will obscure that reality, and nor will Andrews and Palaszczuk and co escape total censure. But consider this, as a numbskull component in all of this, here is a government tipping billions of dollars into the economy. It's going to climb to 400,000 million. And you've got economic lunatics like Andrews denying people the capacity to spend it. It's the same with Gladys Berejiklian. It's the same with Palaszczuk. It's the same with all these premiers. Lockdowns here, restrictions there. How dumb do you have to be to pump money into household budgets, JobKeeper, JobSeeker, subsidised business, and then deny people the opportunity to move so they can spend? Simon Bensett gets it right today when he writes, you can use all the stimulatory effects to pump prime people's wallets, but if businesses are forcibly shut down, it becomes pretty hard for consumers to flush it back through the economy. He said, if you can't go out and spend money on anything other than bread, milk and toilet paper, if there is any, and at the risk of arrest if you venture too far, an economic recovery does not stand a chance. As Simon Benson says, in a permanent state of lockdown, you can have all the money you'd like, but if the economy is not producing, the recovery will be indefinitely delayed. These foolish political leaders bleating about the fact that there has been another case here and another case there, so we lock the joint down until there are no cases when 99% of cases are mild. Today, across Australia, 409 people in hospital. Hello? 23 in intensive care. Josh Frydenberg's a Victorian. He thinks we're going to swallow this hype about economic recovery. Josh, your mob have made the bed. You'll have to lie on it. But I'll tell you something, Australians are not happy at having to be in that bed with you.